Oh hey, it's Emily and welcome to the start of the first June reading vlog. I think it'll be another month where hopefully I can do a couple of reading vlogs and just see how it happens. I think the past couple of months, the second one has kind of gone off the rails a little bit, but we'll see what we can do. I also do have a trip planned this month, and so I'm not sure if I'm either just gonna full on vlog it or it'll just be radio silence. I'm not really quite sure which approach I'm gonna take yet, so we'll see what happens with vlogs in the month of June, but I at least wanted to go ahead and open this one. It is Sunday, June 5th. I just actually wrapped up the final May vlog a couple of days ago. Just did a couple of check-ins for that one, but I mentioned that I had just finished A River Enchanted at the beginning of June. I absolutely adored this one. I'll be sure to link that other vlog below if you want to hear a little bit more about this one, because I did fully wrap it up in that vlog. And then I mentioned I was about 50 pages into Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, and I actually finished this one. So I started it Friday, read a little bit of it over lunch, listened to the audiobook over lunch, and then yesterday my boyfriend and I were trying to recalc one of the showers in one of the bathrooms, and so yesterday we spent a lot of time trying to get some of the old caulk removed, and so I was able to listen to the audiobook for quite a bit of time yesterday and actually just finished it. So we were exhausted, but at least could get some audiobook listening in, so that was a plus. And I absolutely adored this one, and I would be very intrigued to actually go back to her backlist and see if there are others in her backlist that I might like. But this one, you follow a couple of characters. You follow, why am I blanking on their names already? Alexis and Daniel. So you follow Alexis and Daniel, and so Alexis is an ER doctor, and she's kind of the black sheep of the family, which is just ridiculous. So her family comes from, they've got a long legacy at this hospital of being super influential in the medical community, and for them, just being an ER doctor is kind of like, well, I mean, I guess at least you're at the hospital, but they're hoping that she can do even more and kind of leave a lasting legacy at this hospital as part of being a part of this family. It's a super rich family. Their family definitely has a lot of expectations as far as who their children are going to marry, and her parents don't have the best relationship, and Alexis herself has kind of learned some bad patterns in relationships. Her parents' marriages in some ways, and her father can be a bit emotionally abusive and manipulative, and so she's kind of had that model in childhood growing up, and so she's actually just recently gotten out of a relationship that also had some of those things in that relationship, because that was kind of what had been modeled for her as what love should be, and she has recently gotten out of this abusive relationship, so definitely trigger warnings for emotional abuse. It is discussed quite a bit at length in this one. So it is that past relationship, so it's reflecting on some things, but or at least for the most part, there still are a few things where she's interacting with her ex. Anyway, so just note that is part of it, and it is a huge discussion in the story. And so she is on her way back from a funeral at the beginning of the story, and she is in a small town. She's just driving through. She swerves so that she doesn't hit, was it a raccoon? I think it was a raccoon. And she gets stuck, and Daniel comes along here, helps her out, gets her unstuck and gets her back on the road, but there's not really a good place to eat or go to the bathroom, and so she has to stop at the one place in town that's open that he also shows up to, because it's the one place in town that's open at that time, and so kind of the whole town is there. It's the community hangout spot, and And so, she's just grabbing a bite to eat and is going to continue on her way. She has an interaction with him, and then kind of, they have a moment there. She sets off, and, he doesn't think he's ever going to see her again. But he does, and she and he kind of start to see each other a bit more. She finds some excuses to go down to the small town that he lives in and come see him. And the most important thing, the baby goat. Delightful. Just hilarious. So he takes care of animals. He's actually helping a friend by taking care of the goat. But, he's got the whole town, everyone just has animals running around, which was great. And so, they're starting to get to know each other more, but she also tries to make it very clear that, she's not sure that their worlds can fit together. She's not really introducing him to her friends, although he's introducing her to some of his friends. She tries to be very clear and upfront about what she can and can't do. She is just coming out of that relationship. She's not really emotionally necessarily in a place to be in another relationship. And she also has a lot of pressure from her family, as I said, about who she wants to marry or who they expect her to marry. And, so she's trying to make it clear about where she is, and he's understanding along the way and just says, if we can just hang out and enjoy some time together and not have any expectations, that's fine with me. And of course, as they continue to hang out, they keep falling for each other. And so, she learns a lot through seeing her friends interact with him, and, the bits of her world that are colliding with his. She's learning a lot by seeing how different those are, and trying to really think about what's important to her, who she wants to be moving forward, and how she wants to prioritize herself, which is not something she's ever really done before. And so I absolutely adore this. I love the writing. I love these two individually. I love them together. I thought their banter and their chemistry was absolutely great. There aren't too many spicy scenes here. That's not really the focus. So if you're in it for the spicy scenes, for your romances, this might not be a pick for you. This was definitely more character focused, and kind of learning about the different communities, and both characters learning about themselves, in particular Alexis, but ultimately just trying to figure out what she wants out of life and who she wants to be. And it was, I also love the writing in general. I was a huge fan of this one. And so I just ended up reading the whole thing yesterday. And then later on, I did read the first couple of chapters of Blood Scion. I think that's the next one that I'll focus on. The audiobook is on Scribd, so I'm listening via audio as well. And narrator is delightful, amazing. So also enjoying this one. And so again, just 2 chapters in, so I don't have a ton of thoughts yet, but we open up with our main character, Sloane. Her mother has disappeared, and pretty sure our main character, Sloane, is pretty sure she's been killed, and she's trying to find proof that her mother has been killed, because there are rumors that her mother ran off with another man, and that's ruining her family's business. And I think they're farmers. They're ruining that rumor is ruining her family's business. So there's a strict curfew. She's continuing to try to look for her mother's body, but she needs to get back by curfew because, the military force, the people in the group in power, they kind of have these raids that happen at midnight to make sure that everyone, that people aren't breaking this curfew, and to try to catch people. They actually come a bit early that night and catch Sloane, and in that interaction, they're trying to attack her, and she uses her abilities in order to actually escape. She has magical abilities. She's descended from some of the Orisha gods, specifically, I believe, the ones that deal with fire. And so she's kind of got fire, like blood magic in her, and use this to get away and kind of escape and go back home to her grandfather. But now they actually know that she has that ability. And so she is trying to hide. There's a possibility that she's going to get conscripted into, like forcibly conscripted into this army when she's 15. She's not 15 yet, but she's about to turn 15. And so she's going back to her father, or her grandfather, and is going back home and talking to him. And that interaction is kind of where we figure out a little bit more about this army and about their family stories, as you know, through her conversation with her grandfather. You know, I'm intrigued. I think it was a very powerful opening couple of scenes. I'm liking the writing so far. As I mentioned, I'm enjoying the narrator. So overall, very positive thoughts. Again, just a couple of chapters in, but also how stunning is this cover? Obsessed. It's also printed on the hardback for the Fairy Loot edition, as well as some gorgeous artwork. Anyway. So yeah, making my way through that. I think this will be my next focus. I think I'm just gonna focus on one at a time right now. Just that's kind of the mood I'm in. I'm in an audio mood. There's just so much going on that it's just so much easier to get through some things via audio, and I love audiobooks anyway. And so I'm not really doing one physical, one audio at the moment. I think I'm just gonna focus on one audiobook at a time and just kind of work my way through some books I want to get to this month. So that's the current read. I also got to chat earlier today with Kim from Expedition Through Pages, just planning and scheming some things. So it was delightful to talk to you, Kim, and I'll leave her information below as well. But yeah, we were just talking about some things we'd like to do coming up. But yeah, it's been a good day. Anyway, but yeah, I will check in later. So it is a few days later. It is Wednesday, June 8th. I have made some progress in Blood Scion, and I'm a bit over 2/3 of the way through. Hopefully I'll be able to get this wrapped up soon, and I'm still really enjoying this one a lot. It's very brutal. Again, she's got content warnings at the beginning that she talks about child soldiers and the brutality there and sexual assault. So again, read with care. But I'm really enjoying this, and Sloane, I'm really enjoying our main character Sloane. The writing can be a tad bit heavy-handed sometimes, but not really bothering me. And you follow Sloane as she's basically forced into this army, and you know, this army, she's having to hide her magical abilities. This army is focused on killing people with her magical abilities and related magical abilities that kind of derive from the gods. And so, you know, she needs to hide her powers, but you know, it talks about cycles of violence, right? So the soldiers that are being recruited are kind of targeting people like her, and you know, the raids that she grew up like the military raids that she grew up terrified of as a child, she is now in a military force that is performing those raids, and they're picking up or trying to target kids who are just like her. So it's repeating cycles of violence, of being terrorized by these military forces, but being forced either through threats to themselves, their family, people they love. They're being forced to join this army and attack their own people. You know, of course, it talks a lot about propaganda and things that are being used to tell the soldiers that what they're doing is good. It talks about how the tactics that the military is using to get loyalty from the child soldier recruits. They're pitting people against each other. Again, talking about the brainwashing or propaganda. But they're pitting recruits against each other. They are trying to either encourage or punish them in specific ways to try to get their loyalty, and Sloane's trying to figure out how she can try to be a good person or try to be as true to herself as she can while trying to survive and doing what she needs to do to survive. And so, there are a lot of just interesting conversations in here. There's a lot of brutal stuff, as I said, that has happened. So it can definitely be a lot. But yeah, just overall, really enjoying, maybe not necessarily the right word, but I'm very intrigued by the story. I'm very gripped by the world and the world building in here. And Sloane's trying to figure out, she has to take some risks in order to figure out where the line is for her of, what line will she cross, what line won't she cross, which is very, very hard when there are people with guns trying to push that line and force you past it. But, she definitely needs to make some decisions about some risks that she's willing to take in order to do what she can to help people. She's also trying to figure out information about what's happened to her mother, which I think I mentioned in the first clip. So she wants to figure out what's happened to her mother. She's also trying to figure out a way to get to a place where people like her can exist and be free. And so she's also trying to figure out how she could maybe get to that place when she figures out what happens to her mother. So she's dealing with a lot in here. And she's also dealing with the fact that, it's possible she'll never get to see her grandfather again. It's possible that she's not going to get to see anyone from her home again. And so, she's grappling with all those things. Anyway, I'm just very immersed in the world. I think the world building is very rich. The characters, I think, are pretty well done. So I'm very intrigued to continue with this one, definitely having a good time with this one. Again, good time. Whatever. It's kind of hard to say positive words with such horrific themes or, types of content that are being discussed. But anyway, so hopefully I will be able to get this one wrapped up soon. The next ones I have on deck are The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. I'm very excited for this one. So I have that with me. I was able to stop by my apartment real quick and kind of switch out some books, but I am still at my boyfriend's place. We're doing a bunch of stuff around the apartment and have people coming in this weekend, so it just made sense to kind of stay here. I also have or grabbed A Book of Night by Holly Black, so just wanted to at least grab a couple more books coming up. So yeah, that's the check-in, and hopefully I will check in once I'm done with Blood Scion and maybe part of the way into one of those two books. And it is now Sunday the 12th. I have finished Blood Scion and really enjoyed this one. A lot of my thoughts are similar to what I've been saying so far. I think the only other main point I want to talk about with the last chunk of this book is that I didn't love the slight romantic element in here. It's not a big part of the story. And I understand why it's there. It's there for a specific thing to move the plot forward in a certain way. And I understand why it's there, but I've come across quite a few books where this is the case, where any sort of romantic element isn't really hinted at for any part of the book. It's not developed for any part of the book, and it feels like it's kind of thrown in there at a specific section in order to accomplish something for the plot. And that's when it typically feels underdeveloped. I'm not really invested in that part at all. I didn't really feel like it was necessary in this book. I felt like there were probably other ways that the author could have accomplished what they wanted to with that element. But I'm not sure if maybe either she wanted to, or maybe the publisher kind of wanted that element to be in there. Anyway, I don't know. It didn't really work for me, but I think, it was a small part of it. So it was a small part of it that didn't work, although it is key in some moments as well. But anyway,
other than that, though, thoroughly enjoyed this book. Just was so engrossed in the world, very interested in the characters. I'm very intrigued to see what happens next. I did overall really enjoy the ending in a where is this gonna go kind of way. Yeah, very intrigued. I'm very happy I read this, and very glad I like this too, because this book is just stunning. And we love it when we enjoy a book that is just that beautiful. Speaking of stunning books, I am now 200 or so pages into The Stardust Thief, and this one, the end pages, the vibes of the end pages here is just immaculate. I love it. I love the purple that they did for the Fairy Loot edition. Gorgeous. Anyway, I'm loving this. I have already known, but this just continues to affirm that I tend to really enjoy fantasy based on Middle Eastern mythology. This is inspired by some stories from 1001 Nights. So this one follows Luli, and Luli is a merchant of sorts who deals with illegal magic relics. So she operates in a kind of an underground night market, which is kind of cool, and sells these magic relics. They typically deal with Djinn magic, and so she'll operate at this night market, or sometimes she'll go to specific clients and kind of work with them and make a trade that way. So she is operating at this market, deals with a lot of these relics. You also follow one of the princes, who is one of the younger princes, and his brother's going to be the one taking over, and is famous as kind of a Djinn hunter, Djinn killer, and they're trying to wipe out Djinns and Djinn magic, which is part of why Luli needs to operate illegally, because they don't want to condone Djinn magic or any relics that have it. And so they're trying to basically wipe out the Djinns, and the city that they live in was basically built by or built kind of from wiping out a bunch of Djinn and taking their land. And at least I think that's kind of how it's described. Certainly there's a lot of Djinn death involved in them coming to that city. So I think it was in Djinn territory. Anyway, so there's all of this kind of history with the Djinn, and so you follow one of the princes. Ultimately, Luli is brought to the Sultan. The night market is raided. They bring Luli in, and the Sultan basically says, I need you to get this Djinn relic for me. It's basically a Djinn in a lamp kind of thing, where the Sultan would be able to harness the Djinn's magic and the Djinn's power. And, Luli ultimately needs to go on this, because the Sultan just has a lot of power and can do a lot to hurt her. And so she is going to go on this excursion with one of the princes. And yeah, that's kind of where we're at so far. They have made their way out into the desert to start heading towards this relic and to the Djinn territory that's out in the desert. I'm loving the writing. I'm loving the characters. I just think everything is super intriguing so far. Just the vibes, just like the end papers, the vibes of the book are also just impeccable. So I'm loving this. I'm having a fantastic time. And I'm also just loving the tales. They're kind of just tales that are woven into the story as well. I'm really enjoying those. So having a great time with this, having a really great time. So the goal is to finish this one at some point soon, and then I'll probably pick up Book of Night. I also just got City of Glass, the next book in the Mortal Instruments series. I just got access to the audiobook from my library to be able to check that out. So those will be on the horizon, and we'll see what happens. But just loving my reading experiences recently, so we love that for me. Hope you're also enjoying your reading experiences that you've had recently, and that you're enjoying whatever it is that you're reading. But yeah, I will check in later. Oh, hey, it is some days later, it is now Wednesday, the 15th of June, and I have finished The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. I really, really loved this one. This is actually an adult title that was put out in the YA subscription box from Fairyloot. They'll always warn you if that happens, but they felt this was a really good crossover. I agree. I think this could be a crossover if you're used to reading YA, maybe you want to try adult fantasy, or if you're regularly an adult fantasy reader and also enjoy YA, I think this can suit both audiences. This one was amazing though. I am not sure what kind of description I gave when I was first starting it, but I think I talked about Luli, our thief, who ends up meeting who she doesn't know is the prince, one of the younger princes, out and about, and ends up kind of saving him. She comes to the attention of the Sultan, and he demands that she use her skills to go find a Djinn relic. And so she needs to go out, and one of the princes goes with her. She also has her bodyguard. The prince also has his bodyguard. And so, they set out on an adventure to go get this relic. They're journeying out into the sand sea, into the desert, and coming across multiple places along the way, and encounter different kinds of creatures along the way. There are ghouls involved, different djinns. I really loved that there was a lot of mythology woven in here, so this is definitely an ode to storytelling and the power of stories, which I really appreciated. I really loved our characters. Each of the characters, I really enjoyed their perspectives. It's mostly the perspectives of Luli, the thief, and also the prince that goes with her. Mostly their perspectives. There's also another perspective that's added in there as well. I love the dynamic between all of the characters. Just so much great character work. Just world building was just so much fun and so rich, and I really felt immersed in this world, and just the vibes of it when I was reading. So super atmospheric, super fun, and there definitely were parts. So I was, for parts of it, listening only to the audiobook, and in parts I was also following along. I did really enjoy the audiobook. I thought the narrators did a really great job. There were parts where I really needed to make sure that I was reading and listening to make sure that I was getting all of the world building. It could be not like super complex or hard to understand, but there could be a lot of different components and a lot of different stories weaving together and just a lot of different things happening. So there definitely were parts where it was easier to make sure I was keeping up if I was reading and listening at the same time. But had a great time with this one. Would highly recommend, especially if you enjoy Middle Eastern based mythology stories that involve just lots of djinn and markets and desert settings and all of that fun stuff. So I finished that earlier this morning. I have not started another thing, but I will shortly be starting Book of Night by Holly Black. One of the reasons I wanted to do this one next is because it's relatively short. The text is kind of small, but it is also only 300 pages. So it's not super long for an adult fantasy. So I wanted to go ahead and give this one a go because I'm hoping that I can get it finished potentially before I leave on Saturday to go on a trip. So we'll see. We'll see if that can happen, because it would be great to be able to finish this one and then start fresh for that trip and start a new vlog there. Hopefully I'll be able to vlog some from this trip, but yeah, that'll be in a future one. So yeah, it would be nice to just be able to head to the airport, start a fresh audiobook as I'm flying out. So yeah, I will update you as I read Book of Night.